I'm back with another Orange County housing market update, and I'm excited to finally be talking about something slightly different than what I've been talking about in about our last 6 updates, where I was beginning to sound like a broken record every month talking about the housing market slowing down. Well, over the past month, things have kind of leveled off a little bit. We've seen a pause in the slowdown, and the speed of the market really hasn't shifted much either in favor of buyers or sellers. And so in this video, we're going to be getting into the details on that, talking about why the slowdown is paused here. We'll also be discussing home prices in Orange County, the median home price, as well as several different home price indexes. And then we'll also be taking a look at the percentage of sales that sold above, at, and then below the asking price, and use that as another indicator of how the market is performing here in Orange County. I'm Tim Hamilton with StellarQuest Real Estate, and if you are thinking about buying or selling a home, you can contact me anytime. You can find all of my personal contact information in the description below, or you can call our office phone number here as well and get a hold of one of us that way. And if you enjoy watching this video, I would really appreciate it if you hit the like button below, and also subscribe if you like to stay up to date on the housing market. First, we're going to be talking about why we saw a slight pause in August. And we're going to start by taking a look at the 30-year fixed rate mortgage, because the housing market is extremely responsive to mortgage rates. When rates drop, we typically see a boost in buyer demand, and when rates go up, we see buyer demand take a hit. And so looking at the 30-year fixed rate mortgage here from Mortgage News Daily, you can see that rates dropped about a 1/4 percentage point in the beginning of August and remained around 6.5% for the entire month. And so moving on to a graph of buyer demand in Orange County, you can see that during the first 2 weeks of August, we actually saw a pretty big bump up in buyer demand. So that's most likely buyers who are kind of sitting on the sidelines, thinking about buying a home. They saw that dip in mortgage rates and they decided that this was the time to go ahead and pull the trigger and purchase a home. Well, in the second half of the month, we saw buyer demand drop by about 6%. So again, that does not seem to be correlated to any move in mortgage rates. And so it's possible that when mortgage rates dropped, that kind of pulled most of the buyer demand for August forward into the first 2 weeks, as buyers were trying to take advantage of that drop in mortgage rates, and at the time not knowing that rates would stay at that level for the entire month. And then so moving on here, we're also going to take a look at the total supply of homes for sale in Orange County. And you can see that we've kind of topped out for the year, and we're starting to kind of go on our seasonal decline, which is fairly normal for this time of year. And so the supply of homes for sale dropped by 3% in the past 2 weeks. And you can see that the trajectory of inventory this year is following very closely to that green line at the top of the graph. And that green line is the average of 2017 through 2019, which Stephen Thomas, who writes the reports that we get these graphs from, he really likes to use those 3 years as what he considers a normal housing market metric, so we can compare what's going on today to what is considered a normal market. And those were the last 3 years leading up to the pandemic, where, things kind of went a little bit haywire in the housing market after that. So those are what we consider a normal housing market, and you can see that this year we're following that trajectory very closely, even though we do have substantially less homes on the market in general. And finally, we're going to take a look at the expected market time, which is the average number of days it takes to sell a home after being listed for sale. And so as the expected market time moves higher, it means the market is moving in favor of buyers, where homes are taking longer to sell. And as the expected market time moves lower, it means the market is moving in favor of sellers. And so you can see that the expected market time has actually been pretty flat since about the start of July, which means we really haven't seen much change in the speed of the market. And interestingly enough, looking at August, you can see that the expected market time did have a slight dip down, and that really correlates with that slight bump up we saw in demand during the first 2 weeks of August. And now the expected market time is going back up again, which correlates with the downtrend that we saw in demand in the last 2 weeks of August. But really, when you kind of, compare it again back to July, it really hasn't changed much. So we're seeing slight dips and slight, peaks based on what's going on with buyer demand, which is largely driven by what's going on with mortgage rates. Another way we can analyze the housing market is to take a look at the percentage of sales selling above, at, or below the original list price. And this graph really tells a great story of the housing market over the past 7 years. You can see in 2021 and the first half of 2022, there was an extremely large percentage of homes that were selling above the asking price, and those were the years where we saw the largest price appreciation. These were the years where we saw the craziest bidding wars, multiple offers on almost every home that sold, and that's really reflected in the data here. And so you can see since that point, the housing market has gone back closer to a more normal distribution of homes selling, above the asking price. And so moving on here to July 2025, we had 25.9% of closed sales sell above the original asking price, 12.9% sold at the original asking price, and 61.2% sold below the original asking price. And when looking at a chart like this, it is important to keep in mind that just because a home is selling below its asking price, that does not necessarily mean that home prices are dropping, because sellers get to choose the list price, and sellers have a tendency to overprice their homes after we've had years of big home price appreciation. And so, for example, a home may sell 5% below its original asking price, but that still may be the home's fair market value. So even though it sold 5% below the asking price, if it sold right there where the most recent comparable sales in the neighborhood sold for, that doesn't mean that home prices have dropped. In fact, home prices in that particular case have stayed relatively flat. So to get a better idea of what actually is going on with home prices, we can look at the median home price, or even better, a home price index. And we're going to start here with the median home price. And I get this data from InfoSparks, taking a look at single family homes, condos, and townhomes. And in the month of August, the median home price in Orange County dropped to $1,180,000, which was down from $1.2 million in July. So we dropped $20,000 month over month in the median home price, which is about 1.6%. And then moving on, we can look at several different home price indexes as well, which typically tell a more accurate story of what's actually going on with home prices. So we can start here with the Zillow Home Value Index. Month over month in Orange County, we saw a 0.4% drop in home prices, and home prices are still up 2.3% on a year-over-year basis, according to Zillow. And then we can move on to the Freddie Mac's Home Price Index, and they don't have a county-specific data. So for this one, we're looking at the metro area, Los Angeles, Long Beach, Anaheim. And they have home prices down 0.96% month over month and down 0.15% year over year. And I should back up here. These home price index data, this is for the month of July 2025. It takes them a little bit longer to release their data, so we're a couple months back on the home price indexes. And then lastly, we have the FHFA Home Price Index, and they do a quarterly release. And they're for the metro area of Anaheim, Santa Ana, and Irvine. And they have home prices up 1.89% actually from quarter one of 2025 to the second quarter of 2025. And they have home prices up 3.83% from the second quarter of 2024 to the second quarter of 2025. So really at the end of the day, home prices haven't changed much from a year ago. We have two home price indexes saying that we're up slightly and one saying that we're down almost non-existently. And then on a month over month basis, we do have two slightly negative and one still up slightly on a quarter over quarter basis. If you'd like to read some more on the housing market here in Orange County, just let me know. I'm more than happy to send you the most recent Orange County housing report, which is written by a local economist named Stephen Thomas. He does a really great job explaining what's going on in the housing market, and that's where we get a lot of the information that we put in these videos. And again, if you enjoyed watching, I would really appreciate it if you hit the like button below. And also please subscribe if you like to stay up to date on the housing market here in Orange County and Southern California.